So a very good evening to one and all who are here. Thank you for joining. Uh, this candid conversation, which we're going to begin with as a new series, and Ajay sir, very happy and thank you for accepting our invitation to be on this call with us.
My pleasure.
Right. So, team, for all of you who are here and have been a part of Core HRIR, or probably this is the first time you are here, let me take a couple of minutes and share what is Core HRIR into. And just before I do that, let me give you a brief introduction about myself. So, my name is Kalpesh Raichura. I have been in the service industry for more than about 22 years. Have worked with organizations like TCS, Tech Mahindra, GTL, Epicenter, and places like those before I moved out to start my own work in the last 1.5 years. So currently I work with organizations on leadership development and executive coaching. And on a contribution side, I am a governing council member of the ICF local chapter Pune, and I head the Core HRIR platform for Pune. So these are the two platforms which I look at contributing back to the leadership and the development. About Core HRIR, this is a group which began 3 years back, 3.5 years back precisely, and today is a group of about 3,000 plus HR professionals, completely focused on networking, collaborating, learning, and sharing with each other. So we have these 3,000 HR professionals tied up with us across India and globally. And what we keep doing is various initiatives where we can contribute back and look at how we can keep cross learning from each other. So we have a WhatsApp group which where we are connected and keep asking queries related to any scenarios that we have. Discuss a lot of legals and compliances, employee welfare regards to topics. We have a learning weekend webinars that we do. So we've recently completed about, the last one was 24th webinar that we do, and we publish those webinars with senior leaders from HR and from various industries, and we share those as learnings with people. And there is a Core HRIR research group where we're doing research on various topics related to HR. There are, there's an application that we've developed for people who are seeking jobs, and by just sending their resumes to corehrir@gmail.com, they go into our analytical tool where then the matchmaking happens on its own. They get referred for jobs. So there are many, about 8 to 9 different initiatives that we do under this umbrella. Veer Bharat, who is here on this call, is the one who initiated this in Jan 2017. And since then we've picked it up at different locations and different chapters. So currently we are about 5 locations which have local chapters initiated, and a group of about 3,000 people. Within Pune, we have about 80 professionals who are on the group with us. So great. Veer, would you want to add anything before we step into the candid conversation?
No, Kalpesh, please go ahead. Thank you so
Okay.
much. Thank you so much for taking this initiative, and thanks to the guest also who taken time and joining us. Thank you.
Okay.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Veer. So team, let us begin with the intention of what we have for the candid conversation. So as we all, a lot of us met last Saturday and we discussed with regards to the different initiatives that we've taken into our own companies with regards to handling the employees and their requests, and how are we making things which are comfortable for them, ensuring that the business is running, at the same time the employees are taken care of, the well-being is taken care of, their salaries are getting taken care of. And we also heard a lot of companies where they've initiated those online tools to keep their people engaged. The thought was that we heard HR perspectives, and we discussed how HR is dealing in manufacturing, in retail, in service industry. The thought was that can we look at also the situation and the impact of COVID-19 from a business head's perspective. So we are fortunate to have Ajay sir with us, who's going to share the perspectives from a CEO's perspective and an owner perspective. So we're going to have two different perspectives that we will interact with him and get views on. But just before that, and I would want to take this opportunity to also introduce and share a little background of Ajay Bhagwat. which was there in the invite. But I'm fortunate to have Ajay sir with us today. He's the owner of Reno Electronics. He's also been on a lot of boards and director for companies like KPIT, Cummins, and to name a few of those. He's the member. He's the founder member for TIE in Pune, and also initiated the program Nurture 8.0, which has mentored more than 400 to 500 entrepreneurs who began on their journey. And similarly, there is a lot of accreditations and a lot of awards that he has under his name. So that's Mr. Bhagwat with us here today. Thank you so much, sir, for taking this time and spending this time with us.
Sure. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Thank you for your kind introduction, Kalpesh. Looking forward to interacting with your colleagues on this forum. Thank you for the opportunity.
Great, sir. So great. Thank you, Ajay sir. So let's begin with Ajay sir. As we discussed earlier, we've looked at the different perspectives from HR and what they're doing in scenarios like this. But how does this whole COVID-19 scenario come across to you as a business owner, as somebody who's running an organization, and what's your perspective on the scenario like this?
So first of all, it is quite clear that we are all in extremely unprecedented circumstances. We have never had this situation before, and I've been in business for the last almost 30 years, and we've seen lots of ups and downs. Lots of times we have seen business not doing well and so on, but never before we had a situation where we actually had to shut the factory down and could not allow anybody to travel or could not allow anybody to come to the office and so on. So clearly this is a challenge. In manufacturing businesses, you also have an additional challenge that because the factory shut down, you pretty much cannot ship anything, so the invoicing is down to zero. In some service businesses where it's possible to work remotely, it is possible to continue invoicing to a certain extent. And I know that some companies have achieved close to 100% billing in the last few days that we have all been in the lockdown situation. But in manufacturing companies, unfortunately, that number comes down to zero. So the point of view obviously has to be looked at from this perspective that your cash flows have pretty much stopped, and how do you address this situation? So I look at this as a situation that encompasses 4 circles. The first circle being, of course, you yourself as the owner of the company. Second circle is the company itself. The third circle is the society, and the fourth circle is the larger society, which is like what we look at the global market and so on. And I think my view as a business owner and somebody who runs the business, we have to look at it from all these 4 circles and what is our contribution to each one of them. And so clearly, each of the circle you have to remember that just like they talk about on the planes, that you first secure your face mask before you help the others. So you have to make sure that you yourself are capable of standing on your feet before you start helping others. That's very important. And I think we have to keep that view in mind. So we have to make sure that all of us remain viable and continue to contribute. This is the way I look at it. Clearly you will find 2 types of owners here, 2 types of companies which have sufficient cash to sustain for a period of time, and companies which don't. And I would not be surprised that the perspectives of these 2 different types of owners will be extremely different. You will see very different extremes. People who don't have cash at all, then they will be looking at it very differently versus those who have cash.
Right. No, that's absolutely right, Ajay sir, because last week we had some of the HR professionals from the startup world, and they were stuck in exactly the scenario that you mentioned, that the entire cash flow was stopped, and there was hardly any backup to sustain for the next few weeks or few months. So Ajay sir, if I may request you to throw some lights for us on, what are the immediate measures that you have taken to handle this situation?
So from our own point of view, the measures started even before the city went into lockdown, and we sent a message to our teams that, look, we care about your well-being. And so we started activities within the company, like first of all, we would check temperatures of everybody who came into the company, including visitors and so on. We insisted on employees washing hands, employees having good practices of social distancing and so on. In certain areas, it was easier implemented than others. For example, in factory floor, it's very difficult to implement this, but we were able to relay the factory floor in such a way that people don't come close to each other. And we used to have breaks for everybody every 2 hours to go wash their hands. One interesting thing we did a little bit differently that we actually created teams of so many people, say 8 or 10 people or something. And we actually appointed one person as the leader of that particular team. And that leader would actually ensure that people are indeed washing their hands the way it is prescribed and so on and so forth. I think that is one thing that worked quite well. It is sad that the leadership of our state and our country decided that we needed to go into lockdown, and I completely support that. By the way, I completely support the decision. But for the business, it's obviously not good. But we said, okay, this is one time we have to follow like sheep rather than trying to have everybody's opinion, because especially a city like Pune, everybody has their own opinion, and it doesn't help in a situation like this. So somebody is taking leadership, so we got to follow. So we decided immediately that when the lockdown was ordered, we decided that, all right, we'll comply 100% and do the needful.
Okay, great. So great. I think that's I think the first measures that most of the companies did, and it didn't look like as if it's going to go into a lockdown. But at the same time, what I've been hearing from different leaders and different business owners that I've been interacting with, that there are a lot of a lot of things open up when you're caught unaware into a situation like this, and as you rightly mentioned about a change management. So what's something that what opens up on a positive side, on a negative side, for us and organization to be maybe prepared or gives a reality check for us?
So lots of things happen actually, because like I said, this has been extremely unprecedented. So the first thing, let me talk about the negative sides first, okay? But there are a lot of positives that I'll talk about as well. Fundamentally, you realize that the team or as a company, you're not set up to do things differently. Now, the situation forces you to operate out of your comfort zone, and this situation opens up the gaps of in your ability to handle operating from out of your comfort zone. So whether it is in this particular case shutting the factory down, or whether it is for the R&D, marketing and business units operating from home and so on and so forth, is still out of the comfort zone. And you realize that as a company, you were not prepared for that. And I think in retrospect, this should have come up as part of a risk mitigation strategy. So when we set up a factory away from the city, we have 2 factories, by the way, and we did go through the process of thinking about how we can have 2 different locations in case there is a problem at one. But we never realized that we may have to work in a completely different situation. So that's something that I believe we found that was interesting. And we also found out that different people have different capabilities of working from home or responding to a situation like this. And it kind of tells you who are the stars in your team and who are not the stars in your team. So when somebody is bowling very fast and you have multiple batsmen who continue to buckle under the pressure, your team cannot win. But a lot of times when you are not practicing against fast bowling, you don't know that you are in that situation. So nothing is being done about it. This is one thing that opened up, and I would take that as a positive, that it gave us opportunities to work on it and identify various different areas where we would be able to improve. So it was also very easy to find out who are those players on your team who are willing to walk the extra mile. Because one thing you will realize that because of the lack of preparation, you're not very productive working from home or from wherever you are remotely connected. And when you're not productive, you got to figure out how to make up for it. Yeah. You got to walk the extra mile. And this is one area I believe has given a lot of opportunities for it to improve on. Like how can we do business which is very different in terms of modeling, than the business as usual. So these are the things that I look at as opportunities for us to improve. I also noticed that in situations like this, communication skills become very important. When you are working together in one location as a team, the communication skills required are very different compared to when you're remotely connecting to each other. How do you communicate with each other and so on? That's not trivial, is what we also found out. And we saw some challenges in that in some team members. Some others are better at that. So let's try to figure out how to bring the average up so that the collaboration is done in a much better way. Okay. So another thing that we also figured out is that, as a positive, is that we found that it was possible to connect with companies outside of ours, like our customers, our vendors, and so on, just fine without having to be in the office. So these are the opportunities that I see, whether maybe going forward, we could also exploit the situation and still maybe continue for some people this whole idea of work from home and things like that. That may be interesting as well. So,
right, that actually brings out or links to the other question which I have from one of the HR heads, where he's actually mentioned that, do you think working from home and reducing the cost of infrastructure will be the new norm trend emerging in most of the organization in future?
So can you repeat the question? I missed the last part of your question.
Yeah, sure. So one of the questions from Deepak Bharara, who is the director at People A to Z, he's actually asking that do you think working from home and reducing the cost of infrastructure will be the new norm trend emerging in most of the organization in coming times?
I think the answer is obviously a yes, but how to do it is not very simple.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that there are many societies in the world who have been practicing working from home for many years. Okay. Right. And quite frankly, the purpose of that is not necessary to reduce cost alone. Right. Okay. I'll give an example. Our own office in Chicago, we have a couple of guys who don't come to the office at all.
Okay.
Because it takes them about 45 minutes to reach the office. But the work that they do in customer support, they don't need to be in the office. They can very well be wherever they are, and operate just fine. They're actually more productive that way in doing so. And they save 1.5 hours of their time every day.
Wonderful.
And infrastructure wise, I think the cost really, in certain cases, the costs go down if you look at the real estate cost and other admin costs. But you still have to, spend money on the extra bandwidth and the security and ability to log in from outside and things like that in any case. Okay. So I think we should not be looking at everything only as a cost-saving measure, but looking at it as a different business model measure.
Right.
So sometimes the benefits completely outweigh the costs that we are trying to incur or save. So you should be looking at more on the upside rather than saving the downside. Just an attitude difference, the way I look at it.
Okay, no, Gauri, I think that's a very fair statement, because I think working from home, while it may be a convenience, but I think it may have require a lot of your checks, a lot of your security
Sure.
issues, which can probably be
Yeah.
compromised.
Yeah.
So great. So sir, in this scenario, what's your view about the situation for a long term and a short term view? And
So
yeah, sorry.
I think this is a situation where everybody pretends to be an expert, and everybody pretends to have the tisri aankh ki I know exactly what's going to happen. But we all know that is not true. So um, we decided to take it a day at a time. So I believe that we will be in this situation at least for a few more weeks. Whether it's lockdown or otherwise, we'll still be in a situation where we have to be very careful and risk the spread of the virus and so on. And a bigger challenge, I think, is even if the lockdown is lifted, we will still be in a fairly serious situation when it comes to other businesses, whether it's your supply chain or whether it's your customers and so on, for them to be back to normal. I mean, just to give an example, we supply products to some of the healthcare companies, and we are actually discussing possibilities of starting the factory at a minimal level just to be able to support some of the customers in that area, which are in the essential services area. But the question is, will the rest of the ecosystem be ready? Even if we were ready to support, we were ready to deliver products. For example, would the shipping companies be working? Would the customs be working? We do, by the way, we are set up as a 100% export company. So clearly, a lot of other ecosystem partners also have to be working,
Right.
not only in India, but also wherever your customers are located and things like that. So I expect that after the lockdown is lifted, it'll still take about a couple of weeks before things become normal.
Okay.
In China, after the lockdown was lifted, a lot of companies officially started, but all the workers that came back to the factories or to the offices had to be quarantined for 14 days. So they could not do anything for 14 days anyway. So
Okay.
that's the way I look at it.
Okay. So, sir, at this moments of time, while a lot of, because we are surrounded with, or we work with a lot of HR professionals, and we've heard a lot of stories with regards to what they have done to take care of employees and businesses in this scenario. But as a leader, what is it that you expect the role or the partnership from HR in this kind of times?
I think the first thing is HR, and of course, in my personal view, HR also includes the line managers who are also communicating with their own teams. I think first thing I would say is you can never over communicate. You should communicate as much as you possibly can. So what I would expect the HR and the line managers do is to let the teams know that first of all we care. That's the first thing we ought to be able to let the team know, and maintain the morale of the team, that look, transparently communicate with them what the situation is. And we should let them know that the fact that we do have the cash available to sustain for a period of time. So don't worry, take care of yourself. But when you're back, give better than your best, so that we can all recover from this as quickly as possible. Again, I'll give examples of the China situation. I've been in good touch with a few friends who are either suppliers or competitors or just business owners from China, and a couple of them clearly told me that after they started the factories around early February, they had incurred serious losses end of December through January and early February. But by the end of March, they had pretty much recovered a lot of those losses, and they expect that by end of May, they would have recovered all the losses just by working harder and trying to essentially conserve the cash flow. So I think we should also let our team members know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. We would do well, and here is what you have to be doing to help us do well. So it's not just about somebody taking care of cash and so on. What each person can contribute, and that messaging, by the way, is not very trivial. The line managers and all the business leaders have to figure out what at each level everybody can do to contribute to the recovery. Again, in all the four circles, let's not be selfish and say that I'm only worried about my own circle here. It's not just about myself, it's not just about my company, but also the society and the global situation at large. What can I do to contribute to the recovery so everybody is helped in the long term? So that's what I would expect the HR to do. Transparently share if you do have a problem with cash flow, which I know a lot of companies do. In fact, I did a webinar yesterday to some selected mentees of our mentorship program. And a lot of them said that, look, it's easy to say that I have cash, but actually I don't. So I said, well, this is the time to share transparently. Let them know that you have a problem and let us know how you can support, how you can help us. Right. And they were surprised the kind of response they got from their own teammates. Say, okay, we're all this is where we have to fight it all together. Right. So this is very important, and only HR teams can do it much better than anybody else. And to figure out what else you can do in the time that you're working from home, or in case of factories where there is no work, but how can you spend time more effectively and continue to grow? Because there are many things that we should have been doing, whether or not we are working as in the factory or not. For example, getting trained, looking at some soft skills, and so be prepared for taking care of the next challenge and so on. All that can be done by yourself.
Perfect.
And HR can help us implement that.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you for that, Ajay sir. And I think you've mentioned about each person, what kind of roles they play, but that actually just triggers another question in my mind. That who is accountable? I mean, who do we hold accountable in these moments of crisis?
So in case of accountability, obviously the buck stops with the leader of the company. The buck stops with them, and no matter what is needed today, is accountability with respect to having the cash available. Clearly, that goes back to the leadership of the company, and so on. If they failed in keeping the cash flows alive, making sure that there's enough cash and have a runway for at least a few months, and this number can change for different companies, may have different needs, but everybody is expected to have built a cash flow that is sufficient to survive at least for a few months. If they did not do it, well, they're obviously accountable. That's what business is all about. Nobody had expected something like this to happen, but could you have looked at it as part of your risk management strategy? Could you have done things differently? I think the accountability lies at all levels. Now, what happens is, in a typical company, which is obviously hierarchical, and not everybody is responsible for everything. I think when I say accountability, you have to differentiate accountability and responsibility for sure. So there are many things that one is responsible for, but can the business leaders, the line managers, and every different functional head, what is their accountability in helping the company build cash flow is also very important. Some of this messaging has never been clear, and this is an opportunity for all of us to get that message clarity at the highest possible level, that, hey, all of us are here in this situation together. So let's all figure out how to build the cash flows better. That's what it's all come down to. Unfortunately, people who claim to be accountable, they try to think about knee-jerk actions like, okay, I'll have everybody take a lower salary, or I'll fire X number of people. No, I think this is I think a wrong way of meeting your accountabilities. knee-jerk actions never work in situations like this. Never ever. We have never seen this work sustainably.
Okay, wonderful. So Ajay sir, while I have a lot of questions, but what I want to do is at this moment of time, maybe look at if somebody from the audience here has a question and they may have, want to directly ask that to you. So anyone here in the audience who has a question, feel free to, unmute yourself and ask a question. Deepak, I see you're trying to speak something. Do you have a question? Okay, so maybe while others are saying, I have received a couple of questions on chat, and maybe I'll ask you. So
Okay.
Anu is asking a question, Ajay sir, is how can HR use this situation as an opportunity?
I think the first thing is, first opportunity is to really identify those gaps I talked about earlier. How are we building capabilities to operate out of the comfort zone? If one can build that capability, I think we will not only be able to handle this situation, but also be ready to handle any other situation that comes around. Because this is the biggest opportunity that HR has, in my opinion, as a team, and building these capabilities. Second, obviously, is building the soft skills, building the skill sets that are required also to work as a team and help each other out. That is something else that I believe is not done as well as I would have liked in general in many companies. So this is an opportunity that HR can really contribute. And third thing is it gives an opportunity for people actually to communicate with the company as this whole skill set of trying to connect remotely is a capability that we had never built as a society. So HR should also look at this as an opportunity, even try to create capabilities of more and more webinars, more and more training sessions which are done remotely. Some companies have the skill sets, some don't. And I think this will be very interesting to build this set of capabilities from the HR point of view, and also reflect on measurement capabilities. When you're all working together, measurements have been relatively simpler, but when you're working remotely or not working at all, how do you still measure the productivity of whatever it is that we are doing? So it now becomes important for us to have written communication, more the communications over internet and so on and so forth. How do we build capabilities of bringing clarity in all that communication, which is what I think the developed societies have been doing so much better all through the years. We as a society haven't been able to build those skill sets as well as we should have, especially in the manufacturing industry.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ajay sir. And I think a couple of things that you mentioned is, what we've seen is a lot of companies are utilizing this time to train and empower their people more and stay connected rather than losing out this as a complete vacation. So they're utilizing that time to be engaged and see what best can be done.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So team, anyone has a question? Otherwise, I can pick up questions from during the registrations or from the chat box.
Alpesh, hi, this is Rajiv. Can I start?
Please, Rajiv, go ahead.
Yeah. This is for Ajay sir. Sir, hi, this is Rajiv from Bangalore. I work in a manufacturing company. My question to you, I work in HR, but I'm looking at something beyond HR now. I want to pick your brains on how do you want to, any plans you have made for restarting the entire factories after this 3 weeks of lockdown. What is your action plan? Have you thought about anything like that? For the first 15 days, what should happen? The next 15 days, what should happen?
Yeah.
So this comes from a general perspective that when machines stand still for about 3 weeks, they need a lot of overhauling. They can't work to the full capacity immediately. That is one. And also people also would have got into that lethargic approach in its first 3 weeks. Number three is labor force, which I presume maybe I'm biased right now, but I have seen this happening in my earlier company, where when there was a layoff for about 10 days, when they all came back, they had got into few bad habits like smoking. Some people even came to the factory, drunk, all that. What are the action plans do you think for the first 15 days we should enforce, and the 15 days after that? Yeah. Thank you, sir.
So, yeah, it's interesting that you asked this question because before we went for the lockdown, I actually had a meeting with our production team and the operations team and asked exactly this question that what would you need after everybody comes back? Let's say for the argument that all be back. In fact, at that time, by the way, when we shut our factory, we were supposed to have been back on the 31st March. So yesterday would have been the day that we would have started the factory in Maharashtra. It is after that the Prime Minister Modi ji announced 3 weeks lockdown. But in any case, two things that we did that I believe would be of help. First of all, even before going on the lockdown, I talked to our production managers, asked them what would they need when we come back. What kind of challenges did you face, and so on and so forth. The first challenge that was told to me is that everybody may not come back at the same time. That's the first challenge because we don't know where everybody is. Of course, in our case, we have kept track of every single employee as to where they are and so on and so forth. But it's possible that everybody would not come back at the same time. But let's say that they do come back at the same time. I was told that within 2 days, they would be able to get all the systems back to work, including the machines and so on and so forth. I think this is another test that we should consider for ourselves, is that how long does it take for us to restart any operations? I think if it takes more than a couple of days, I think that's not a good thing. If you're in a continuous process kind of manufacturing, I can imagine that the startup times can be longer. But in batch processing and so on, the kind of business that we are in, I think we should not have any disruption there. That's number one. But the second bigger disruption that we should be aware of is the ecosystem disruption. Say, for example, will all the buses start at the same time? Will all the other facilities start at the same time? We still have to be worried about everybody's safety. So we still have to make sure that we are screening everybody for their health and so on, so that we don't unnecessarily spread the virus and things like that. Then is the ecosystem like supply chain? What will happen to those? And so on. And all that has to be proactively planned as we go along. And from our own perspective, we don't anticipate any challenge with that. Okay. So, and I would imagine most people should also not be worried about that, but the ecosystem issues they should be concerned more about, not your own factories.
So Rajiv, I hope that answers your query.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Rajiv. So Saurabh, I see a question from your side. Would you want to ask it or do you want me to read that out for Ajay sir?
Kalpesh, you can ask. It is already with you.
Okay, Saurabh.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So Saurabh Sinha, Ajay sir is asking that how will this period of not going to work or 3 periods of lockdown impact the work globally, and are we expecting any kind of recession? And then the answer which his question is adding to that is, if yes, what kind of employment challenges sectors are preparing for, and what are the contingency plans?
Oh, I think it's a no-brainer that the whole world will be in recession. As a matter of fact, the IMF chief already announced this morning that they are as soon as the data from Germany and Japan come in, they will probably announce global recession in the next few days, okay, because this will be the second quarter that the world would not have grown. And the only economies which are expected to grow are, they actually named 4 or 5 economies, India being one of them. But globally, on an average, they're expecting a recession for sure. Now, this is not the first time that we are seeing recession. So the world is very used to operating under recession. As a matter of fact, this particular one will be an easier one to take care of because none of the countries are worried about fiscal deficits anymore. None of the countries are worried about the inflation and so on. They have all, if you look at globally, everybody has announced serious cash inflows from the government. Like Indian government also announced 14,000 crores to be injected in the business. US announced $2 trillion, and every country has done the same. Clearly, more than recession, your problem will be that of inflation. Okay, because when that happens, the world goes into a very inflationary mode. That's what we should be worried about. But in any case, to answer your specific question, would it affect employment? I think it will definitely affect employment, but it will also create some kind of a restructuring of employment. For example, some sectors clearly will bounce back a lot faster than others. The manufacturing sector, I expect to bounce back a lot faster than the hospitality sector. The services sector, some part of it will do very well. The healthcare clearly will continue to see a lot of investments going in, especially if you have an innovative kind of a mindset and a country with the infrastructure to support it. So there will be a lot of activities happening in that area, which will clearly change the way the employment will be structured. The whole notion of working from home, if that works for some companies, and I've already heard many companies talking about continuing it, will again change the structure of the way you employ people. So it will affect other industries like logistics. It will definitely affect the non-essential expenditure-oriented industries like hotels and so on, because everybody will be starved of cash. So clearly, on one hand, there will be serious opportunities when it comes to reducing costs for the company, which typically means a lot of remodeling the business and so on. But at the same time, it will affect all those non-essential expenditure product lines. So would you go to a Marriott for lunch every day? Maybe not. Because the companies won't be supporting it because in order to conserve cash. But would there be more emphasis on public transportation? Absolutely. So and so on and so forth. So there'll be different kinds of things that will come up. And we ourselves are seeing a lot of opportunities coming up in the healthcare industry. We have a business unit in healthcare, and we are seeing serious opportunities coming in that space as we speak, not only from India, but also from other countries.
Okay, great. Thanks for asking that question. So, Ajay sir, maybe, while we've discussed a lot of the business and a lot of other challenges that people are having, but maybe if I may ask, so how are you utilizing this time right now where, you've been somebody who's been traveling a lot, and right now you're at home and it's almost 7-8 days now, and we have another 14 days to go as a part of this 21 days.
Yeah, so I'm sure a lot of you are, or most of you are in the same boat. So I actually found myself to be busier in the last 8 days than I was before, because for two reasons. I've been also doing a lot of webinars for our mentee companies, not only within TiE, but in general in the ecosystem, trying to focus on, and also I've been personally very busy in helping several teams which are also trying to manufacture many other products in the healthcare space. For example, Government of India has asked companies to look at the manufacturing of ventilators, and we have a lot of technology and expertise in building electronics for that, and I'm working with a lot of teams which are trying to do this. I thought I would grow a beard in the 10 days that nobody's going to see me, but luckily I have not managed myself to do that. But I've been getting to spend time with my wife. I don't know whether she likes it or not, but it's like in your face, we're all there, in front of each other. I figured out where the tea is kept in the house. I figured out where the cups are kept. I figured out where the soap is, if you have to wash your utensils and so on. I've actually I'm capable of writing a blog now on what is the best way to sweep and what is the best way to mop and so on. I think these are the things that you missed out in life. And what's interesting is since evenings are all left to ourselves, we have been all of a sudden we realize that we do have accounts on Netflix and Amazon Prime, so we get to watch a movie every day. So interesting. But I'm an avid reader, so I've been reading quite a bit. I've been trying to catch up on things that I normally would not have been able to do, and I'm also staying up to speed with technologies quite a bit, especially on the medical side and embedded side, which is very close to my heart. And I've been reading quite a bit on that, spending time, and hopefully reskilling myself, and so on.
Okay. So on that note, continuing to the reskilling part and learning part, any any recommendations that you'd want to give to the HR fraternity with regards to any particular skill or webinars or things that they can do it for themselves and for their teams?
Well, I think a lot of it. One thing I would stress, and I can't stress this enough, that we always find that cash flow is top management's responsibility. I think this is one thing where HR can really rethink and say that, hey, can we take the cash flow accountability all the way down in the food chain with the company? And which is not happening automatically, by the way. It doesn't happen without reskilling. Say, for example, ask a question like how many of your business unit leaders or operations managers or marketing people or sales people are able to read P&L and able to read cash flow statements. This is one soft skill that I believe we really should not be doing without at all. Everybody must understand finance within your own, regardless of what your core competency is. That's number one. Second thing that I also found is that you will find even on a webinar like this, not everybody is well versed with using technology to communicate, And I'm myself not a very social media kind of person. I didn't even have a WhatsApp account till a few days ago. But having the knowledge of how to use technology to communicate has been extremely critical. This is one other soft skill I would definitely consider HR to impart to everybody within the company. How and so on is clearly something that we should figure out. And the skills in communications is not just about technology, but also fundamental communication in the first place. How do you communicate effectively is something that I believe is a very special soft skill. That is also important. And another thing that if that can be somehow figured out is how do you make the process of self-learning effective? In each of these companies, many of these people always talk about on-the-job training, in the classroom training. But the process of self-learning is something that if the HR community can figure out how to make it effective, I think there'll be a huge contribution to the business community, I think. Self-learning, okay. You learn things by yourself and assess whether you're going in the right direction. This is where I would focus a lot on and really contribute.
Wonderful. Okay, great. Thank you, Ajay sir. So we have a very interesting question from, so we have a couple of students who have joined, who are part of, their MBA colleges. And
did you say students?
Yes, there are a couple of them who are doing their professional, the MBA courses, and who are about to venture out into the professional world. So there's Divya who is asking this question, saying, sir, if there is a global recession in the coming future and cash inflow crunch, then how is it going to affect the placement of college students, and what is it that they can do or prepare themselves for to face this situation?
So that's an interesting question, and I have an interesting answer. Okay, so if you look at the past 3 recessions, and you can remember the recession after 9/11 and the recession after the Lehman Brothers crisis in 2008 are the ones of recent times that some of us with relatively gray hair can remember. Okay, but there have been deeper recessions that happened before as well. So if you just learn from that, you will realize that in all those recessions, frankly, everybody went for cost cutting. Okay. But guess what? The lowest cost employment comes out of colleges. So if anything, you should not be the one who should be worried. Okay. Because every company tends to build a pyramid in this recession time in order to cut cost. What I would worry about is how can I become productive as quickly as possible? So what's the difference between hiring fresh versus hiring laterally? The people who are hired fresh are typically not productive for n months, n being sometimes 1 month, sometimes 6 months, sometimes 3, and so on. If you can figure out a way to become productive as quickly as possible, you would be my first choice to hire if I were to look for somebody. People who should be worried are those who are not willing to reskill themselves, not willing to look at different ways of operating, different ways of doing business, and so on. I think those are the ones I would be worried about. Okay.
Wonderful.
So that's my take on it. I hope I answered your question to your satisfaction.
Right. I'm sure it has been answered. So Ajay sir, I think that's all the questions. It's 4:56 right now.
Sure.
And so on a closing note, I think from my side, I just want to thank you for this time. And I think everybody who joined here, all the 29 professionals who are here and students who have joined, made this time. Thank you for showing this interest. And Ajay sir, just to share, while we were doing this conversation, in the last 5 minutes, I was running a poll whether a session like this is helpful for them and would they want to have some sessions like this.
Okay.
And 100% of them have come back that this was a very helpful session and they're looking forward for more sessions like this. So.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad that you are taking this initiative, Kalpesh. This is very important for all of us to stay together and share with each other all the good practices and what works, what does not work. I'm glad that you are taking that initiative and sharing with everybody.
Right.
And if I can be of any help, please feel free to ping me anytime that's needed.
Thank you so much, Ajay sir.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you
one
and all for being there. See you later. Bye-bye.
Okay. Yeah, bye-bye. I'll sign off.